Hey guys, a couple weeks ago I saw Spider-Man No Way Home. It was great because I didn't have idiots clapping in my movie theater, so I could enjoy the movie. And I did enjoy the movie, but I thought, where would I rank it among all the Spider-Man films? I mean, I already have kind of a list in mind. I already know which ones I like and which ones I kinda don't like, but I thought it would be fun to rank every Spider-Man film thus far. And for people watching in the future when other Spider-Man movies come out, this was made after No Way Home. Alright, so enough talk, let's get into this Spider-Man ranking. Let's be real, you guys all knew this one was coming in last. Everyone knows The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is bad. What do you even want me to say? Guess I'll start with the things I do like, which is Peter and Gwen. Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield obviously have great chemistry, and even though they do the will they won't they like a billion times, I actually don't hate it considering that it all builds to Gwen's death. Her death is handled pretty well in this movie, even if the rest of the movie is kinda crap. Max Dillon's origins as Electro are fine. It does have the cringy dialogue here and there, but then when he becomes Electro, he loses a lot of nuance, if there was any there in the first place, and becomes your generic bad guy. I will say though, Electro's theme goes hard. Speaking of bad guys though, they all suck. It's like Spider-Man 3, except I'm not constantly laughing, so I actually have to sit through and digest this crap. I've already covered Electro, but Harry Osborn is worse. We have never heard of him and suddenly he's dying and best friends with Peter. He wants Spider-Man's blood to survive and Peter says no. But why? You literally have no reason not to. Giving your blood isn't gonna kill you. But speaking of killing, we have Peter Parker's parents. We get a little scene in the opening where they die, and it literally adds nothing to the story. But then we see them again and again and again throughout this movie, even though they have zero plot relevance. If you take them completely out of the movie, nothing changes. But what I hate most about this is that they make it seem like it's Peter's destiny to become Spider-Man, which is just stupid. The whole point of Spider-Man is that anyone can put on the mask. The one good thing about this parents' inclusion though, is that Aunt May gets one little part of dialogue where she whips into Peter for looking for his parents when she's been there the whole time. But, as I said earlier, this is Spider-Man 3 minus the funny along with some dumb, pointless parent plotline and some lame villains. 3 out of 10, you all knew this was last place.
Amazing! Amazing! Amazing!
If I didn't know anything about Spider-Man, I'd probably like The Amazing Spider-Man a lot more. But I do know about Spider-Man. Not a lot, I haven't read that many comics, but I know Spider-Man doesn't become Spider-Man out of revenge. Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man is kind of a dick. I know it's not his fault because he's a great actor, but he's just written badly. I'm not against changing characters from the comics if it makes the story better, and I think having Peter learn to be a hero until the bridge scene could have been cool if it was executed better. The bridge scene is really cool and I do enjoy the action in this movie. The effects are pretty good and I like the fights, especially when Peter Parker moves like a spider. We never see this kind of fighting with the other Spider-Men, so it does make him stand out a little bit. The school fight scene is probably my favorite in terms of action, and the bridge scene was probably great as an emotional level. Seeing Peter save a kid and the moment where he takes off his mask and goes, "I'm just a normal guy." It's fleeting moments like this where you go, that is Spider-Man. Peter and Gwen are cute together and I'd say they probably have the best chemistry out of any of the spider couples we see in this movie, but it's mostly just because Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone are just really good actors and they were actually dating at the time, but then again, Tom Holland and Zendaya are kind of dating, so I don't know. They're really good. They're one of the good parts in this movie. Also, Peter Parker's parents are in this movie, but have zero plot relevance. Just like the second one, nothing changes if they're taken out of the movie, which means they should not be in the movie. The Lizard is a cool villain, not amazing, but like not the worst. Turning everyone into lizards though is kind of hilarious, and I love how No Way Home kind of makes a joke out of his character because it kind of is a joke. And this movie wants you to take it seriously, but as we see in No Way Home, it's hard to take you seriously when your plan is to turn everyone into lizards. The movie has its moments where it's good, but I do have a lot of nitpicks, and it doesn't have the same life as the Raimi movies or even the MCU. I don't hate it, but one thing I do dislike is how people are trying to say Amazing Spider-Man movies are good because Andrew Garfield was good in No Way Home. Andrew Garfield is an amazing actor. I know this. Tick Tick Boom is a great movie. Social Network is a good movie with Andrew Garfield putting on an amazing performance. He is an excellent actor. But just because he was written well in No Way Home does not make these movies better retroactively. Andrew Garfield is an amazing actor, but these movies are not written the best. It's not as bad as the second one. This one has its moments where it's pretty good, but I don't think it's really that great, and it doesn't do a lot to stand out compared to other Spider-Man films. So The Amazing Spider-Man comes second to last and gets a 6 out of 10.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
Let me tell you guys a story about the first movie I remember seeing in theaters. It was me, my dad, and one other old guy. And the movie we saw was Spider-Man 3, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I thought, more bad guys, this means more fun, right? Yes, actually. This movie is bad, but it is so much fun. There's literally a gust of wind when Emo Peter throws his jacket. It is so great. All three of the villains are good on their own. Harry's been built up the whole trilogy. Sandman has a connection to Uncle Ben, and the scene where he becomes Sandman is surprisingly beautiful for the comedic car crash that is this film. Eddie Brock is a fun foil to Peter. I find it hilarious and concerning how he doesn't even care about Gwen, who just fell from a building and only wants pictures of Spider-Man. Once he gets the Venom suit, he's crap though. This movie juggles its villains by constantly writing them off. Harry gets amnesia and is out of the movie. Sandman dies from Emo Peter and is out of the movie. And Venom doesn't even become a thing until the final act. With them all being written off, it isn't until the climax where you realize it's a bit too much. Sandman and Venom conveniently run into each other and kidnap Mary Jane. Did they even know who she was? Like honestly, do any of them know who Mary Jane Watson is, or did they just decide, hey, we're gonna kidnap this random person who just so happens to be Spider-Man's girlfriend? Did I miss something? I don't know. But Spider-Man saves the day and Harry dies. That butler is stupid for knowing the whole time and not saying anything. This movie is dumb, but it is so funny. You cannot have a bad time watching this movie. Emo Peter is the greatest thing in the Raimi trilogy. Yes, I said it. This movie has its faults, but it is the most rewatchable of the trilogy, and even though it is bad, it is funny. You cannot have a bad time watching this movie. That being said, 6 out of 10. On to the next one. This is the movie that a lot of people say started the superhero trend. So I will say this now. Spider-Man 1 caused the death of cinema. Alright, I'm just kidding. But also, not really. This movie is a fun story. It's a Spider-Man origin. It has all the regular stuff you want in the Spider-Man origin. Uncle Ben dies and we get the superpowers. It does your run-of-the-mill stuff, but I guess I can't really say run-of-the-mill because this was the first one to do it. So good job, Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire and everyone else who worked on this movie. Also Danny Elfman, because the score in these trilogies is really good. I will say, it is really nice to see a trilogy with a cohesive style, because in the MCU, directors and writers are swapped out constantly. We'll have new directors and new writers and even new actors sometimes. But with this Raimi trilogy, it was the same guys all working on it, and it is really cohesive. Every movie starts out with your opening credits with the web, it has the same score, and it's just really nice to see a trilogy that is cohesive with the superhero story. No team-up movies thrown in the middle, just a good solid origin. And this movie is solid, it's paced well. We see Peter do stuff, then we see Norman do stuff, and then we see them come together. Willem Dafoe as Norman Osborn is amazing. Not the last time I'm gonna say that on this list. He is great. I love Willem Dafoe. And Tobey Maguire is decent as well. I'm not one of those people who loves him, but I don't hate him. I think he's a good actor, and I think he's given really good writing, and that writing he's given is so good that sometimes it confuses people to thinking he is the best. I'm not saying he's not the best, I really do not care about Spider-Man opinions. You guys want to argue about who's the best Spider-Man, I really don't care, but I'll just say, being written the best does not make you the best. I mean, it can, I don't really care that much, but I think a lot of people confuse Tobey Maguire given the best writing with being the best Spider-Man character. I think his awkward charm works really well in this origin though, and there's a lot of fun moments. There's the iconic MJ stuff with the kiss in the rainy alleyway, which is fine. MJ's fine, I guess. Harry's in this movie, Norman's in this movie. We get our good fights, which even though their CGI was bad with the time, still looks pretty solid. Really don't have much to say about this movie. It's a solid start to the trilogy, and it set the ground for a lot of superhero movies to come, which did kill cinema. 7 out of 10, let's get to the next one. Alright, before we talk about Spider-Man Homecoming, I want to say how proud I am of Michael Keaton for reprising his role as Birdman. Alright, come on guys, that was a good joke. I think Homecoming and Holland's Spider-Man in general get a lot of hate, mainly from the Raimi fans. And I do like the Raimi trilogy, but it annoys me every time someone says something about Spider-Man being Iron Man Jr. You guys did watch the movie, right? And you realize that's the point. That's the point of these movies. That's what makes the scene where Peter lifts the collapsed building so powerful. There are nitpicks that are definitely valid. Your opinions are valid. It's just, I have different opinions about these movies. There are some nitpicks that I definitely see, but completely overlooking the point of a movie to prove your own point is stupid. Vulture is one of my favorite MCU villains. His motivations are great and the scene in the car is excellent. Spider-Man saving him at the end is great as well. His daughter Liz is kind of flat as a character, but I love the idea of the Vulture being her dad. I think Tom Holland is great at being the young high school Spider-Man. He's got a good balance of the intelligence and the confidence needed for this character. And people will say this movie is small scale, but I kinda likes it. I like seeing the high school stuff and seeing Spider-Man do your friendly neighborhood thing. That whole montage at the beginning, where he's just going around doing friendly neighborhood Spider-Man stuff, was kinda cool. With the MCU constantly doing big scale stuff, I do kinda like it when sometimes we just take a step back, and they do that in this movie. Tom Holland's got a really good charm, there's some cool action, there's a cool villain. I like Homecoming. 8 out of 10. On to the next one.
Get out my pub. Alright.
Okay, so Homecoming and Far From Home are kind of tied for me, and I had a lot of trouble deciding which one to put ahead of the other on this list. In the end, I decided Far From Home because it does kind of have a bigger scale to it. Coming right after Endgame, we see the blip, and it's made into a joke, which I love. I love that we can take things and laugh at them, especially in this sort of high school environment where you know all the kids in this Spider-Man high school were definitely making memes about the blip. You just know it would happen, so I like that the movie decides to laugh at it. I think it's cool that we get to go to different places with Spider-Man, like in London. Now say what you will about New York and how New York can kind of be a character in itself, like how it was in the Raimi trilogy, and how it isn't really that in the MCU, which, yeah, that's a valid point, but I do think it's cool to see Spider-Man in different environments like he is here. He's in Italy and London and all these other places where they're doing all this stuff. Mysterio is a cool villain. We all knew the twist was coming because I've read comic books at least, so we kind of knew, and it's Jake Gyllenhaal, so you know he's kind of shady. He probably smelled really bad on set too, right? But he is a good villain in this movie. Mysterio is pretty cool. I like how he's so deluded in his mindset about Tony Stark and Spider-Man and all of that. He is a lot darker than the Vulture as a villain, which I think this trilogy kind of needs. The villains do get progressively darker as these MCU Spider-Man movies go on, which is good. And I do like the high school stuff. Peter and MJ, you could argue, is rushed, but then again, it's high school, so every relationship in high school is rushed. At least, that's how I justified it. And I still think they're pretty cute together, and this movie has good comedy, and a good villain, good action scenes, and Spider-Man is all alone not knowing who to trust, and he uses his gadgets, he uses his wit, and he beats the bad guy. That last fight scene with Mysterio and the whole climax in general was really, really great. And then we get our post-credit scene, or mid-credit scene, with J. Jonah Jameson, J.K. Simmons. I forgot to mention him in the other Raimi movies, but he is the best part of that trilogy. One of the best parts, other than Emo Peter. But we see him again here, and he reveals Spider-Man's identity, which is an awesome cliffhanger. Far From Home, another 8 out of 10. Okay guys, it's time for the new one. So, cover your ears if you don't want spoilers. Or if you want to be spoiled, you can stay. Just don't blame me. Okay, Spider-Man No Way Home time. I've been one of the people who actually likes Tom Holland's Spider-Man throughout the whole trilogy, and he really shines here. There's a lot of fan service, but most of it feels natural, even if this strategy may not last. You can tell which people just didn't show up to shoot, as a lot of the villains could have had more to do. Lizard and Sandman are just CGI'd the whole time. Defoe's Green Goblin is the best though. I both love and hate how it's this movie for people to realize Willem Dafoe is an amazing actor. I mean, maybe it's just cause I'm a Wes Anderson fan, and I really like The Lighthouse, but Willem Dafoe is great. And Electro also gets a lot of improvement. Jamie Foxx gets a new haircut and he doesn't have that dumb gap in his teeth, and he doesn't look like a Smurf anymore, so that is good. This movie has a lot of substance and a lot of fun. I actually teared up at a couple parts in the movie, when Aunt May dies and when Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man saves MJ. The three Spider-Man interacting was great. They all bounce off each other well, and it's amazing to see Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man not written like crap. Him saving MJ is one of the best moments in the whole movie. Also, Toby still has his awkward charm, and it's great to see all these three characters together. There's a lot of callbacks to their other movies, which is really cool, and a lot of great conversations Some are humorous, and some are them working together. It all works really well. People can say it's too long, but I thought it was good. I also liked the slower pace of the first act, establishing Peter's life with his identity revealed. It was all covered in the trailer, but that's the trailer's fault, not the movie's. I don't think the strategy of just throw in dudes people know is something that can work long term for the MCU, but they made it work here. Overall, a very fun movie, but also the darkest of this MCU trilogy. They all get progressively darker with each villain, starting with the Vulture, then Mysterio, and then the Green Goblin, who is great. He goes without the mask in this movie, and I think it works because we see Willem Dafoe face acting and voice acting, and it is great. The movie has a lot of fan service, but it is really good. Also, guys, Daredevil is in the MCU. I am freaking out. I will buy into the shill if you give me Daredevil. Give me a good Daredevil movie, please. The show is amazing. I want a Daredevil movie. Spider-Man No Way Home is good. 8 out of 10. Coming in second place in this ranking is Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2. From a directing standpoint, this one is miles above the first one. It has improved CGI and it's just shot way better. In this movie there's a lot of fights where people are falling, and it looks really cool with Doc Ock's arms. You know how last time I said Tobey Maguire isn't necessarily the best Spider-Man, just the best written? Well, that permeates in this movie because the writing is really good. Throughout this movie, Peter Parker is crapped on. He's crapped on by Harry, he's rejected by MJ, he's yelled at by J. Jonah Jameson, he's doing bad at school, he loses his job. He just goes through a lot of trouble, and the script does a really great job letting you know that. And then we eventually see him give up Spider-Man, and he is happy without it, but he makes that choice to go back. It's just really great writing all around. Only thing I do complain about though is the MJ and the astronaut subplot. That's just kinda weird. But this movie is still really good. Doc Ock as a villain is pretty cool. We get some cool action with him. There's the bank robbing scene. I already talked about how them fighting as they're falling down looks really cool. And we have the train scene, which is just masterful. The second best scene in Spider-Man movies. We'll get to the first one later on. This movie is overall very funny but also sincere, with a really well written and told story. We get pizza time, which is genuinely one of the best quotes to come out of any movie. Come on, you can't not remember pizza time. It is hilarious. Whenever you have pizza, it's pizza time, man. Pizza time, pizza time, pizza time. Everyone talks about pizza time, but nobody talks about how hilarious Peter's Pizza Boss is. Maybe it's just because it's been memed to death by YTPs, but it is hilarious. Anyways, I'm going off on a tangent. This movie gets an 8 out of 10, would probably be a 9 out of 10 if not for the MJ and the astronaut thing, but an 8 out of 10. Let's see what number 1 is.
And the winner is...
If you guys didn't know Into the Spider-Verse was gonna be number 1, then you guys are stupid. This is a film I could genuinely never get tired of. Spider-Verse is a love letter to the Spider-Man character and by far the best Spider-Man film. There isn't much I can say that hasn't already been said. The animation's fantastic, the story is great, there's so many tiny details that you can pick up on as you watch it again and again. The music slaps. The What's Up Danger scene is the greatest Spider-Man scene ever. The music is amazing, the animation is amazing, the story and build up to Miles' leap of faith is excellent. The villains are good as well. Each has a unique design and story. The Prowler's sound is great, and the reveal of him being Miles' uncle is really compelling. The other Spider-Man are all great. Peter B. Parker has a really interesting, depressing story. Spider-Gwen is a cool character, and I like how they just aren't put together with Miles immediately. I mean, there's hints of them getting together, and they might do it in the sequel, which I am very excited for, but they're friends by the end of it, which is cool. Spider-Noir is great, Spider-Ham is great, Penny Parker is great, all these characters are great. There is nothing to hate about this movie. It is near perfect. If you're gonna complain about this movie, then you're annoying. Some opinions are valid, not opinions on these ones, because this movie is perfect. I will hear no slander for Into the Spider-Verse. This film is just perfect. Everything works. Every time I watch it, it gets better and better. It is a love letter to the Spider-Man character. You know how I couldn't decide on my favorite Spider-Man earlier? Well, that's a lie. Miles Morales in this movie is the best Spider-Man. That's right, I said it. There hasn't even been a sequel yet, and he's the best. This movie is just so great. I could gush about it over and over. So much love and effort poured into this movie by the animators. Just pause and look at any frame in this movie, and I bet you'll find something cool in the background. It's just so great. Such a well-told story. Well written, well developed, well animated. It's colorful, it's beautiful, it's emotional. It is great. I can never ever get tired of this movie. If I could rate it an 11 out of 10, I would. Into the Spider-Verse is a 10 out of 10, and there is no doubt in my mind that it is the best Spider-Man movie. So that is my Spider-Man ranking. Spider-Verse is number 1, and you all know it's true. But if you don't know it's true, then you can yell at me, or praise me, or do your own rankings in the comment section below. You want more videos like this, or me just talking about movies in general? Just suggest it, or subscribe to the channel, like this video, share it to a bunch of people. I'd love to go more in depth on some of these movies, and why I feel the way I do about them, as well as other movies that you guys could suggest. I'm thinking about doing a video on some of my favorite movies in this past year of 2021. If you guys like that, you can comment about it below, or you can just comment whatever you want. I really don't care. But I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. You want more stuff like this, all you gotta do is like, comment, and subscribe. All of that other stuff. I will see you all later. Good night.